Hello and welcome to another Canguro English Daily Digest. My name is Christian and today is Monday, best day of the week. I'm recording the podcast a little bit late this morning, not the podcast, the Daily Digest a little bit late this morning because I got lost on the way into the office. Yeah, I can't believe I'm going to do this. My Spanish GPS had a few technical problems and so I got lost. My Spanish GPS is called Juan Direction. Oh my god. Well, anyway, let's get into the serious business of talking about today's word of the day. So today's word of the day is an example of how we can probably understand new words just by looking at them and thinking about what their meanings could be. So today's word of the day is supersede. So we're going to just apply a little bit of sort of abstract thinking to try and understand what it could be. So super, let's look at the first part, super. So, super, we know it means like Superman, so it's something, strong and amazing and incredible. But then we also have superior, something which is superior. So it's all about something like being at the top, right? Superman is the strongest man in the world. And strongest, fastest, he can fly. He's super. This coffee is super, I'm feeling super excited. So it's like the top, the number one. Top. And then seed. Well, seed means, it comes from the Latin verb to sit. So we know this root from other words like to be sedentary. If you're a sedentary person, you sit around a lot. You don't do anything. If you're a sedentary person, then maybe you've got a problem with your weight. And I recently went to my doctor, and my doctor said, he said to me, "Don't eat anything fatty." And I said, "What, like hamburgers and cheese and meats?" And he said, "No, don't eat anything fatty." Well, this is why emphasis is so important in speaking. Yeah, so supersede. So supersede literally means to sit on top. So it's something which is like, number one, which is the best, right? It makes sense. You have, like, in tennis, you have the number one seed and the number two seed, where they're sitting in the rankings, right? So to supersede, which is a verb, to supersede is to be number one, right? To basically be the next generation, to replace the old, to be the ultimate, to be the latest. For example, probably in the future, electric cars will supersede old diesel and petrol cars, definitely. And now, one little note, you can also spell this word with a C, but this is the most common spelling. Okay, now, since we're talking about superseding, now we're in 2019. We have hundreds of years of linguistic research and knowledge and scientific advancement. And, if you think about what we can do now with things like medicine, compared to what we could do even just 20 years ago, then we can only be amazed and thankful that we live in today's world, right? But then, for some reason, I don't know why, for some reason, when it comes to language, we've gone backwards in the past. 20 years, 30 years. We've gone way backwards in a really negative way. So I want to take you back to 1939. So 1939 was a good and a bad year. It was a good year because John Cleese was born from Monty Python, and it was a bad year because, Franco took over Madrid and Germany invaded Poland, and it was the start of World War II. Not a great thing, right? So 1939 was a bad year, and that's when this book was published. My father-in-law was going to throw away some old books, and I found this from 1939. It's How to Write, Think, and Speak Correctly. Now, I picked up this book and I wanted to look at it because I thought, I can't wait to look at this book from 80 years ago. 80 years. Look at this book from 80 years and have a good laugh at how far we've come. I was going to make fun of its old-fashioned ideas about, about language and how to speak and write. And guess what? I discovered that the philosophy, the ideas about language contained in this book from 80 years ago are in a lot of cases way more advanced than what a lot of students are taught in 2019. I mean, that's just really disappointing. And the book is just, it has some very flowery language. I'm going to read a little bit here, ready? To all of us, unless we are born or become dumb, which means you can't speak, is given from our earliest to our closing moments the power to make a noise. We signify our successful arrival into the world by a squawk, and our departure sometimes by a rattle, generally by a sigh. And in that period that intervenes, we make for ourselves, unless we die very young, out of the raw material noise, that intricate, subtle, and beautifully finished product that we call speech. Woo! Okay, so that's kind of poetic, right? He's talking about, we have this power to make noises, and it's speech, and it's beautiful, and and it's really nice. But listen to this, and you tell me if your English teacher would ever say this to you. And this is where things get very disappointing when we look at the way that we teach languages these days. Okay, here we go. We must not imagine that if we have learned how to spell and to punctuate in accordance with current conventions and how to avoid grammatical errors, our written composition is bound to be good. Faultless spelling and grammatical accuracy are negative qualities only. We need to acquire them, certainly, but once they are acquired, we should forget them, or at any rate relegate them to the back of our consciousness. We should try to make them, in fact, part of our second nature, so that we do not have to think consciously about them when we're writing. Nothing is more likely to dam the natural flow of our thoughts or to stop the fluent running of our pen as over-anxious concern about details of grammar or spelling. Let your pen run freely, in pace with your thoughts, if it can. And then when your writing is done, it is time to read through it in search of possible errors in punctuation, spelling, or grammar. And to those who fear of making such errors cramps their style at the beginning and induces a kind of stage fright, I would say that on the whole, it is better to have something to say and make mistakes in saying it than to have nothing to say and say it in faultless language. Can you imagine your English teacher saying to you, listen, I don't care if you make mistakes about spelling or punctuation or grammar. I just want you to have something to say. 80 years ago, how far we have fallen. I'm going to be talking more about this book. I hope you enjoyed today's Daily Digest. I'll see you in class.